Osiris.
We're mass communicating. We're mass communicating. Mass communicating.
Welcome back to Touchdowns All Day. I am your host, Max Dawson, and with me, fresh off the road, John Barber.
What's up, everybody? How is the world spinning since I'm just checking back in with the real world?
Yeah, you've been out 9 shows already. I think like 9 more to go. Well, I mean, if you need me to catch you up, I don't think we have enough time. There was an election, all sorts of stuff happening. But what we're really here for is to hear about what's been going on with you. Some amazing shows in the last 2 weeks.
Yeah, we really hit our stride this past week. It was great. We did a lot of cool things for Halloween. And somebody was saying that whenever there's a show where we do a lot of cool things, the following 2 or 3 weeks of shows are always next level. For one reason or another, there's some new like jamming ability that we have, or there are new jams to play, or there's a mixture of all that. And this weekend was, just more of that, which was cool.
Well, you had not only the Halloween show, the band performing a live improvised score to 2001: A Space Odyssey, but a few nights after that, you went out and performed the entirety of Otherwise Law-Abiding Citizens. You've had shows in big markets. You've had your Brooklyn shows. You had the Penn's Peak, effectively a kind of hometown show for you guys. What have been some of the highlights?
Well, I liked playing the full album of Otherwise Law-Abiding Citizens. I really enjoyed that show. I thought it was cool. It was really fun. We haven't played some of those songs in a long time, which was great. That was good, man. That show was cool. I would want to do that more often, just play full album shows. I definitely want to play another couple Revolution in Motions. I mean, look, when the Hot Air Balloon came out back in the day, we played a bunch of different Hot Air Balloons. We played Dyslexic one. We used to do it all the time. And I mean, all the time, like, 3 times a year or something like that. But still, that was a lot. And Revolution in Motion came out, like early this year, was it? Or was that last year? It was March. And yeah, we've only done it once. So it feels to me like it's due. I liked doing this Otherwise Law-Abiding Citizens show because it really did feel like I could almost like remember being in the studio when we played when we wrote that album, put it on wax and whatever, and it was cool. The crowd, it was sold out, so everybody was in a really good mood, and it was cool. We weren't supposed to have, we were supposed to play Asheville that night, and the venue that we're supposed to do it at is destroyed. It's completely destroyed, which is a bummer because I like that venue, and I liked, I just think Asheville is such a cool place, and it's so sad to see, that kind of destruction up there. And so, we wanted to do that show. We got to go back there at some point, but we got to go to Atlanta. We like Atlanta. The Atlanta crowd was into it. We did a charitable component for Asheville in both the show and the live stream, I believe. I don't know what the exact details were, but we were doing a lot of planning. I was in the music department for that part, so we did a lot of music, but I know that there was a lot of donations made by the fans, and really happy that we were able to contribute in some small way because the devastation was just massive. And that was an interesting way to kick it off. It was really interesting. The band started playing like a little bit more laid back in the improv, which is just kind of a thought experiment that Aaron and I were having backstage, where we were talking about how if the jams get, we had just done a bunch of shows, right? And we're kind of looking for new things to do. And so we're like, well, why don't we do the opposite of what we think a new thing would be, like a George Costanza type of play. Like, why don't we play, what would happen if we played more chill and more relaxed? Instead of tried to make the jams more hype, let's try and make the jams less hype. But we didn't tell Mark and Alan about this. Because it was just kind of a thought experiment. And we just went on stage and we just played one set. And we were like, yeah, let's just play real chill and see what Mark and Alan do.
Which set was that?
And that was, I think that was Atlanta.
Okay.
I think it was Atlanta, or it might have been, where did we go? We went back to Kentucky, right?
So the tour started out in Covington, Kentucky. Then you did the 3 nights at the Caverns, and then you finished that first week off with the Benefit in Atlanta.
And then we went to Ram's Head, right?
Then Baltimore, yes, a couple days later.
Yeah. Yeah, so I think it was Ram's Head where we decided. And we played that show, and then after Ram's Head was what, Penn's Peak?
Yes.
Yeah, so this is what happened. So we played, and I don't know if you can hear it in the tape or not, I'm wondering. I haven't gotten a chance to listen to it myself, but so we played Ram's Head, and Ram's Head is a cool venue because it's kind of like a little mini like arena type of thing. Really high ceilings, you know, and you can hear the music bounce around like you're in a big space. So that is a cool place to play less notes, like more impactful ideas and less craziness, right? And we thought Ram's Head went over really well. Like, we walked off stage, we were like, boy, that was great. And then we went to Penn's Peak, and we let Alan and Mark in on what we were doing. And then I thought Penn's Peak was just the coolest show. You know, it was just really, really fun, really great. We had a blast. I thought it was like the idea of just chilling worked really well. And then we kind of backed off of it a little bit the next night because we were like, well, that was just a fluke. Let's go back to trying to tear. And it just felt, it was the first night of Brooklyn, and there was a lot of people there. There was a lot of distractions. There's a lot of, like, you know, our management was there, and a lot of people that we've been in the business with for a long time were there. And they all have, like, abilities to get backstage passes and come talk to us. And so we can't get our show done because everybody is walking backstage and we're like, hey, good to see you guys. And like, we want to talk to them. We want to be social. So, you know, sometimes the show prep is harder to do in that situation. And then the next night we were like, okay, so we walked on stage. It felt like we were, you know, like not doing what we were doing at Penn's Peak, which was just cooling out and playing dance music. And it felt a little bit more jazz fusion-y and like a lot of work for your brain. And the next night we went back to playing funky dance music, and you can see it in the crowd when we get it, when we chill out into a good groove, it actually creates more dancing, which you wouldn't expect. But I think it's because it's less music for people to dance to. Yeah. So they can just hear the one thing that's going on and dance to that. So I don't know. Maybe that's too much of the sauce right there.
No,
but that's
I think it's great because I definitely heard lots of things happen between Ram's Head and the last night at Brooklyn Steel. Ram's Head, for me, the standout moment was M1 into Falling. Theme that has emerged many times through this week is you guys just feel relaxed and loose. You're taking chances, but you're still playing precisely. Composed parts are all sounding really good. Vocals are sounding good. Technically, everything is on point. There's just a looseness and a willingness to experiment and play around a little bit, to go in some different directions. And so from the M1 Falling onward, then again, the second set, the Vasilios Doorbell, you guys were just doing a little extra, a little something different that made these shows stand out. And then when you went to Penn's Peak, one of the clips I wanted to talk through was that second set, Running Into the Night Voices Shemra, which was, to me, one of the most exciting jams of the year. And then followed by the 2 nights in Brooklyn with highlights too many to count. But the to be continued shimmy, that set went through the flows, Country Royale. Everyone has already started anointing that as one of the sets of the year. And there's definitely, I like hearing you say that you went back that last night to that more laid back style of funky playing, because it definitely came through in the recording.
Huh. How about that?
Yeah.
How about that? I like that. I mean, look, you take a jumper from the corner and sometimes it's a swish. You know what I mean? You're just like, what are you going to do?
Sometimes it's a touchdown.
Yeah. Let's stay on sport. Let's stay on sport for the podcast, please.
Before we get to the recordings, a couple other questions I had about the shows. Just, we're going to do inevitably a full episode on the movie. I want to talk to Magner. He was feeding me some of the things he had been working on leading up, and he did an amazing job of putting together all sorts of great samples and incorporating some of the classical compositions, obviously the Zarathustra, but also the Blue Danube and elements of the film into that unbelievable improvised score. But I wanted to just get your perspective on that experience. I mean, truly one of the towering achievements of motion picture history, 2001. Who hasn't, as a college student, dropped acid and seen it at a planetarium or something like that? A real rite of passage for generations of people who are into psychedelics and general consciousness expansion. So to see you guys sink your teeth into it was a really exciting thing for me and many other people. But I would love to hear about your experience of playing that set, how you approached it, and how you felt the results came out.
I mean, I thought it ended up great. I enjoyed watching that movie and playing along with it. I really liked the couple of classical things that we did, because I like having some stuff to play in there. I know that there's like some kind of movement to like keep the pure improv pure or something for the movies. I just don't know how I feel about it. I don't know if I have that same opinion. I don't really have a contrary opinion. I just also don't know if I have that opinion. I really feel like going out there and playing something to the movie it's kind of like a reason to do something totally different than what the Biscuits do. And it involves this visual format, which gives you kind of it gives you a way for people to enjoy it. That is, very everybody can watch the movie. Everybody knows how to watch a movie, right? Everybody can watch the movie, listen to the music, and enjoy it. You don't have to be an improv music fan for that one. It's potentially the most accessible thing the Biscuits do. But I just don't know if it has to be a pure improv for 2 hours. And so I like the fact that we did some change. Aaron put that 2001 segment together, and, he really just came at it in a totally different direction, which is fantastic, because every time, people do 2001, it's that version that Fish made popular. You know what I mean? It's just another take on that version, when ours was really not that at all. And so that was cool. It was cool to do something different. It wasn't even harmonically the same, which I think is fun. And then I liked playing Blue Danube because, I don't know, you know me. I love waltzes, dude. I've always loved waltzes. I've been writing waltzes. I listened to Tchaikovsky for like a year straight when I was 16 or 17 years old because he's the best at waltzes. So I don't know. I love that stuff. I would do a fully composed movie. I would do another all improv movie. I think it's a great idea for a show. And I think we've done a really good job with it. And it works in the Cave because the Cave's like a kind of like a big movie theater.
Yes. And it's been great to hear elements of that leaking out into the subsequent sets, hearing you guys tease the 2001 theme and play it as an encore in Brooklyn. The other thing I wanted to ask you about was the debut on stage of the Orange Bird.
Oh, yeah. So the Orange Bird made it on stage, and I don't know why I even wanted. So here's the thing. If I can take a guitar that it's like this weird, totally non sequitur, but I will bring guitars on the road because then Nick will set them up. You know what I mean? And I have guitars here at home and I don't know how to set them up like Nick does. I don't even know how to come close. And I don't even really have a guy in the area who does it very well. Apparently there are a couple guys, but there's one guy, he retired, he disappeared. And then when he disappeared, I started figuring this out, which I could just bring these guitars on tour and let Nick do it, and then you play them on tour. So I didn't know if the Orange Bird was going to really work, but I was loving it here. I really like those new pickups they put in it. I don't know what they are. I think I don't know if they're like PRS, like homemade pickups or what. I haven't gotten the direction on the pickups. I've never seen them on another guitar before, so I think it's something new that they cooked up. And I think it's really next level. I think they really came up with something great. And that guitar was like like the fans had no reason to like that guitar except for it just sounded awesome.
Yeah.
So that guitar has earned its place in the bit. I don't know if I want to bring it home now. That's the problem. And now I have no guitar at home again, which is always what happens.
Yeah.
Because all my guitars end up on the road and then I end up at home with no guitar. And, but woe is me.
Well, the fans definitely loved the sound. And do I understand correctly that it is a little smaller than the guitars you typically play, or somehow oriented a little differently ergonomically?
It's more of a normal guitar. It's only 22 fret. I generally play 24 frets on stage, except for the Gibson. So I know how to play 22 fret on stage because the Gibson's a 22. So, but I like the extra 2 frets. So I will, 100% play a 24 frets guitar on stage. If I have a 22 fret guitar and I put it on stage, it has to be perfect in every other way because I look at the 22 frets as not so great. The guys who build guitars really like the 22 frets because they think they ring more true like a bell. So that's why they make the guitar 22 frets. Mm-hmm. I don't necessarily notice that. I think maybe 1956, that was very true, but I don't know about anymore.
Yeah.
Like that 24 fret PRS. I went back to Baby Polly after a while because I was just, that PRS was really nice and the crowd really liked it. And then I ended up back on Baby Polly for the next 3 shows because I just it was just like, it is just it's just a beautiful guitar. It's just crazy. When you play another guitar, you end up back on that one because it's just like so good. So that's what happened. But this guitar is cool and I love the color. And so what am I going to do? It looks cool in photos. That's important. Today's world. You need an Instagrammable guitar. I sat my guitars down and gave them a talk about being more Instagrammable.
All right. The last question I have before we get to some of the music is, any songs stand out for you? Not necessarily even performances of songs, but any songs that you're having a lot of fun playing or feel like the band is playing particularly well these days?
Country Royale, I think the band is playing fucking great right now. I hate to say it. I mean, it just feels so good. I don't know. It's just, we're just killing that song right now. It has all those like expressive vocal lines, like that down 4th verse and stuff, and the band is just playing dynamically really well. I think that's kind of the theme of where the Biscuits are at now. It's a very dynamic period for the Biscuits. We're about to start talking about, like, obviously this weekend was all about dynamics, and the conversation wasn't about how do we talk about dynamics, where what I say is understood by you and what you say is understood by me. Like, we're in this world of improv where there's no book. There's no like super systems for improv guitar and band, Like Trey never wrote a book, Jerry never wrote a book, John Barber never wrote a book. Miles Davis never wrote a book. So there is no book about how to do this. And honestly, music books are just like, Bitches Brew is the closest thing to a book about how to improv. And so what I find with the band is there is a stage at the beginning where the conversation is about how to converse. Like, what do I say that means this to you? Like, when I say the phrase backbeat, it means exactly the opposite to Alan than when I say it. And when I say it, I mean something very specific. When he says it, he means something totally different. And so when I use that phrase, just like when I'm just riffing on an idea, he's thinking I'm talking about something totally different. And that's kind of like the hard issue about improv is what are the terms? And now that we're having these dynamic conversations like we had this weekend, it seemed to me like a lot of the like terms and a lot of the ways to discuss things are kind of mapped out at this point. And now we have to figure out, where the juice is we obviously had a really great weekend playing what would just inevitably be considered more dynamically.
Yeah.
So how far does this go? I don't know.
Well, let's get to the music, and I'm going to start out with a little snippet, a very short snippet that I think is very appropriate based on where you just left things. The listening that you guys are doing on stage, the on-stage communication, whether or not you're using backbeat with the same meaning, I don't know, but you guys are definitely on the same page communicating through your instruments when it comes to being on stage. And so I'm going to start out with just a little snippet of something. I was driving yesterday to the Chargers game, and I rewound this little segment like 3 times. And I said, Avery, listen to this. Listen to what they're doing here. And I want to see if you hear it too now. I found this to be so cool. This is from the Deal at Brooklyn Steel on Friday night. And again, not the show that everyone's talking about, not the jam that everyone's talking about. To me, when I heard this, I thought these guys are really locked in and they're really playing in a very generous way. They're listening to one another and they are taking ideas from each other and building on them. So here's a little segment of that jam. that little guitar figure you played. Mark and Magner picked right up on it. Now it's just a brief moment, and it's almost like a moment of rest between two more up-tempo and busy sections, but you guys are just so relaxed. And you played that one little part, and it just set Mark and Aaron up for the next 3 minutes to build off of it. And then you could pull back and do whatever you wanted because you had sort of communicated to them a direction and they took it. And then you just were able to play over them and play through them and just be at ease. It felt like it just feels very relaxed.
Yeah, that's a good thing. I mean, that's like almost the number one thing you're going for. So it's good to hear. I mean, it's interesting. That felt like a summertime outdoor show type of vibe. It's interesting that happened in Brooklyn, in the beginning of the winter when it just gets cold.
Yeah,
it was funny.
The big highlight, of course, and the one that we would be remiss if we didn't cover, is the to be continued into Shimmy that started the second set of the second night in Brooklyn Steel. Already, the band has released this on YouTube, so everybody can go check it out. Even if you're not a Nugs subscriber, you should check out the full HD video on the band's YouTube page of this segment of the show. But John, let's listen to it and break it down. Did they post that
already to YouTube?
They posted it already. They turned that around quick.
Go Kaplan. By the way, if you're listening and you are not a subscriber to the Disco Biscuits YouTube page, just, saunter on over there. Do a subscribe, add the bell notifications, and, I feel like we never say that. We never tell people to subscribe to our YouTube page.
Definitely,
and we should.
You definitely should subscribe because some of these videos are absolutely stunning. The Nugs team is really firing on all cylinders. You've got the amazing crowd shots, and this night in particular, you've got about 11 sweaty, shirtless dudes in the front row. Were you aware of this, John?
I am. I want them to use AI and turn them into less sweaty.
Yeah, we're working on the technology to digitally remove some of the perspiration because it is a little disgusting. Right. But they were clearly feeling it. People were really feeling it that night. So let's have a listen to an extended segment of that jam. Again, it's just so evident that you guys are listening to each other and being patient and being relaxed and having fun.
I like that sound. That's cool. So usually we would push here, you know? But instead we're just dropping some wing noise and hanging out. You know, it's not that we can't push here. It's not that pushing here isn't a good thing. It's just, it's different for us to relax at this point of the jam and just be like, all right. And then we notice that the people will find what we're playing, you know, that noise that Aaron has there, that little 2-note thing, right? And people, I'll see them move their hands along with it, you know? And I'll be like, oh, you're dancing to that. And then if that goes away, they lose what they're dancing to. Yeah. So they almost don't want us to pick it up.
When you talk about dynamics, that's the best illustration right there, where you're having these segments in between the fill and keep going, where things just get very quiet and ambient almost. People are dropping out. It's very minimalistic. But then when Alan does the fill, it launches into a much more active and energetic segment.
Kind of reminds me of that one jam in Houston. That's like a really high energy version of this one. Yeah, and Alan's been using the clap a lot.
Yeah.
And it's It's such a boss move, you know, when you have like 3 great snare drums there and then you go to the clap anyways. It's so great. Well, it's interesting. Our harmonic approach is to kind of stay away from doing the same harmonic changes over and over and over again.
Yeah.
Because it kind of locks you in, and then it turns into a solo, right? And in that particular jam, I think Mark and I, at different, like, we weren't necessarily playing together. Oh, yeah, I remember this. Yeah, this was cool. Now we're just going to another key. We're like, screw it, let's go to another key. That's fun. All right, that's kind of a new thing too there.
What in particular?
Changing harmonies like that. I don't know anybody does that. I think people do it when they compose music. You can't really do that as a DJ unless it's in the song already. And jam bands don't really do that because they're in their chord progression and they like to stay in their chord progression. And we don't do those things, and so we're adding this thing, which is what you just heard, which I think is very powerful. I think the band agrees, but it has to be in the right spot, which I think that one was good.
Yeah.
And then we're back. We did it twice.
Yeah.
And then there's a little bit of the changes from earlier.
Mark playing around with the Risky Business bass line a little bit there. Yeah.
Didn't we play it earlier in the show?
You did.
Yeah. I actually thought he was going to jam into it there. I was like asking myself, did we finish that, or am I going to like have to sing that one now? This is hot though.
More dynamic.
And this is a direct result of the chill out conversation.
Yeah.
All right, that was, what was that? I don't remember how we did that.
You did it.
I don't remember how we did that. I thought we were just going to that other key at that point. I didn't know we were going to jump back.
now it's early and it's still fresh in our minds, and so I don't want to overstate anything, but I'm putting that in the category with San Diego Monster in terms of just long segments of exploratory playing where it's not just like the jam that produced Risky Business where you were like, oh yeah, there's a theme that could be pulled out. And there were 11 things in there that you and Joey could sit down with. There were so many different ideas in that 15-minute segment that on their own could be the start of something. But the thing that's so exciting about jams like that, or like that, Monster from San Diego or the Caterpillar from New Haven, is that there's just one after another. Every drum fill sets off a new section of improvisation that, while building off of what came before, could stand on its own as its own song seed or just an amazing jam in its own right.
Yeah, and unfortunately that's true in a way, because as much as that's great, it's also not necessarily what you're trying to do. The band can't help themselves, including me, all of us cannot help ourselves on those big wind-ups, but to try and play something more exciting than the wind-up. And really, you don't want to do that. What you want to do is sit in the grooviest version of what you were just playing. But it's so hard. It's so hard to not want to just kick it on and go crazy at the end of the wind-up. Yeah. And so it just happens. And what happens is when everybody tries to go crazy all at the same time, inevitably a new super groove needs to happen. And because everybody's doing what could be, misconstrued as drastically different things than they were doing a minute ago, what you end up is a totally different jam. Like in our level of looseness where there is no harmonic construct. In fact, we don't want one. There's nothing to rely upon to get you back to where you were. So we're starting to do these things where we talk to each other during the jam and say, okay, this is the moment. Remember what you're playing. And then we go into our pickup and then we try and go back to that moment. Yeah. We did that at Penn's Peak once and it worked. Okay. I don't know if it was during the show or during the VIP. It was probably during the show. And I haven't heard that jam, but I think it might be, I think it happened. I think we did it right in the at Penn's Peak. We'll start doing it right as we go. I'm not that worried about us doing these things. This is all part of a process, Yeah. So it's this is a new part of the process is how do you actually keep the jams very consistent? You have Monster from San Diego, which is kind of like an everybody pile on jam. It's we go to a rezo, Mark goes to his rezo sound, and then Aaron and I also go to our rezo sounds. And then we're all just doing a rezo sound jam and just picking it up and picking it up. And so that one stays similar because it's kind of like a unique sound pile on jam, which also we don't really want to do. So it just seems like it's funny to me that these kind of these jams are great examples of the band doing things we want to do, but they're also great examples of doing things that we want to change for the future. If that makes any sense. Okay. Well, let's take a listen to a segment from that Penn's Peak show. My favorite moment of the tour is so far, is the Running Into the Night, Voice is Insane, Shemra, Freeze, Feeling Twisted set. I thought that set from start to finish was amazing. Running Into the Night, which people have been clamoring for a long time. Voices, which never fails to deliver. Shemra, which has been money the last few months. The Freeze jam there where you basically just played Suspended in the Air. You played Astronaut in the middle of the Freeze, which is poetic. Yeah. Full circle moment. Joey said he wanted to write a song with a Suspended in the Air type jam in it. And then you close things out with Feeling Twisted, which came out of the Benefit show. And I'm really happy to hear that song back. It not only fits so well alongside
Doorbell, Doses, Risky Business thematically in terms of the vibe. It just has so much potential for nasty jams the way you guys play right now. But I picked out a little segment that got us from Voices into Shamrock. Maybe it's what you were talking about, maybe it's not, but it's one of my favorite moments from the recent tour and from the year in general. And in snipping this, it killed me that I had to take out all of the voices because you slammed into the beginning of the voices at like 200 miles an hour. At the beginning
of Voices.
It was so intense. It was so fun to hear a really fast just collision into voices as opposed to the slow build.
Yeah, that was a really good jam. I thought that's what you were going to play. I'm surprised you didn't play that. But that to me was like a perfect like energy jam.
Yeah. Well, I liked this one because it went back to that more laid back style that you've been talking about, where you guys are exploring lots of themes, pulling in elements of different songs and kind of playing with different moods and tones, all within the context of a jam that's got a very distinct start and finish.
So chill, right? So chill.
Yeah. I feel simultaneously that we've been flirting with Wormhole for a while and elements of Who's in Charge. It's almost like a little, you're on Wormhole, Alan's on Who's in Charge.
Yeah, we're at that tempo for those songs for sure. I think I'm like playing like kind of like a halfway 2001, I think is what I'm.
Okay.
I'm just like fucking around with that a little bit. But yeah, it is Wormhole too.
So in contrast to that last jam that had lots of short segments, this one doesn't have the same segmentation to it. Alan's on those E-drum congas instead of doing the big builds every however many measures, and things are just stretching out in this very chill space. That tribal feel.
Yeah, I like that.
This could be during the tribal council. I'll go tally the votes. Who would be the first boot from a Biscuits Survivor season?
It'll be.
You put the crew on too.
I mean,
like who rubs people the wrong way on day one?
The first person. I don't know.
I feel like Joey would be the person who you think is going to get voted out first, but he doesn't. But he has like the dramatic first episode.
Where he's like crying on the beach at one point. It's like all red faced, like, why is no one listening? Yeah, I do like this organic percussion sound approach.
Yeah.
To the jam, Aaron's playing like a marimba, like a percussion-y keyboard. And we're just like building it in that world. We're not leaving that world to go to something that's a more normal build.
Yeah.
There's no organ, there's no ride cymbal, there's none of the things that you would normally do.
And I don't want to jinx us, but there's been nary a riser nor a downshift for this entire segment.
Yeah, that bums me out. I think there should always be risers and downshifters.
out of nowhere.
Yeah, it's almost like when we get to the jam band moment, it's just like, okay, you know, we'll get to this later, you know, there'll be a song. I feel like, you know, Joey and Mark put like moments on the set where they definitely want the jam band moment, but something like that, you know, you get a nice little clean melody like that at the end of the jam. And then, yeah, let's go to the next song. We've been in that world for a long time. And it's more of a dance. I feel like we're really like growing into the disco part of the Disco Biscuits. You know what I mean? We're growing into the dance music part of it and not even trying to like emulate dance music, just trying to keep the improv and like just trying to work with the crowd. It's almost like somebody was saying the other day that I think Marco and I were talking about, you know, DJing versus jam banding. And he was talking about how, so when I go DJ a show, I know what I'm going to spin. I approach it like a Disco Biscuit show where I have my set list, and I do deviate from the set list, but rarely. I like to stick into my set list. I think I can kind of predict what the energy in a room is going to be like. I've done so pretty successfully. And then every once in a while I need to drop no recollection or something because there's a lot of fans there and they want to hear that kind of stuff in the DJ show. When Mark says he's reading the dance floor the whole time, every single song is a decision based on what he thinks the dance floor wants. And to me, that I would be like, well, I mean, that's how I used to DJ, like when I DJ'd a bunch of years ago. And it was just like, for me, it's a lot of thinking to do where I like doing it the way I'm doing it now. But he does it the opposite way. And then we were talking about how like the Biscuits don't do that. You know, we were like, it's funny that, you know, I was like, Mark, it's funny that your DJ show would be the exact opposite of a Disco Biscuit show. Like we do deviate from the set list, but rarely.
Yeah.
But it seems like in the jams, we do read the room. I mean, in that Penn's Peak room, it's a big room. It's wooden floors. There's a lot of dancing space. There were people all the way like around the bar in this weird kind of, it's like a barn type of vibe. It's like a huge barn. And it seemed like the room was really dancing during that kind of organic. Cause I remember being on stage and like, we were looking at each other like, wow, they really like this organic vibe we're in. Alan really leaned into it. And then the room went crazy and we were like, wow. And then we sat in it for 10 minutes and I don't even know if that was the intention. Yeah. You know, was to do that. So that was, that's how we read the room in the Biscuits, I think, right there. Is it in the quality and the type of improv we do.
Very interesting. And once again, another example of dynamics. It's not only within that jam, but also within the context of the run of shows or the tour. You've got moments of high intensity, the Vasilios ring the doorbell twice from the second set of the Baltimore show, for example, which is about as high octane as you guys get. And then moments like that where you're just sitting in that organic tribal groove with Alan on the congas and Magner on the marimbas, and you're taking these very melodic, just kind of holding a note, just like screaming notes, just long, slow notes. It creates so much of a more varied experience within the shows when you get to go on an entire run. And this run of 5 shows had it all. You know, it had so many different things for so many different types of Disco Biscuits fans and jam band fans. The response has been rapturous. People are really excited because you're off the road for a few days, but on the 13th, you're back. You got a show up in Woodstock, the Bearsville Theater, then Norwalk, then Worcester, great Biscuits town, then the State Theater in Portland, which you're returning to after that show in March, which is still on everyone's best of lists, and then a Vermont show. So you've got people in the Northeast are just having a feast right now, a pre-Thanksgiving feast of biscuits with so many great shows, great towns, great venues, new venues, old favorites, and just lots to be thankful for this November.
Yeah, I played Bearsville as a DJ in the summertime, and it's similar to Penn's Peak vibe, big wooden barn in the middle of the country. And the Biscuits are going to destroy that room. I mean, it's just going to be crazy, and it's going to be really good. But that run is designed to hit the State Theater again in that way. There's a magic in the State Theater. I don't know if other bands experience it, but the Biscuits have a long history of just terrific shows in that space. So this will just, I mean, I'm sure the way we're playing now, it'll probably be the best of all the State Theater shows. We'll see, but it's very likely.
A number of people have reached out to me and said they heard, I believe in the dribble, that you guys were intentionally or unintentionally quoting that State Theater jam from back in March. Confirm, deny, can you? No?
I don't know. I mean, probably. I quote jams all the time because we listen to the music so much now. It's really hard not to quote stuff that we're doing.
Yeah.
Just even what you and I are doing is enough for me to have quotable ideas next time we get into these jams. But then we go through everything with Joey as well. Like we're mining the shows for these incredible moments to make great songs out of. And there's a lot of listening in that. And, it wouldn't be surprising to me if I understand that Houston show. Did we make a song out of that Houston show?
Not yet, but I'm pretty sure one day you will.
It's on the list, I know, but yeah. But it's interesting that I hear when Mark's in that kind of change, we start to address that kind of thing, this is really great. It's really, I think, important for when you're creating so much music to have some kind of system to go through it and just kind of keep yourself aware of what's going on in your own life,
Yeah. With all these shows, are you and Joey still able to do any writing, or is that on hold until the tour is over?
Well, we have a number of new songs that we have yet to put out. It's a couple were written by Mark in the past couple of years, but mostly he did a lot of work recently. We wrote a couple songs in October. We wrote 2 songs in October that we didn't get to do the full jam treatment on. So they're more like vocals plus vibe. And I don't quite know how those are going to end up as Biscuit songs because I don't quite know what the groove is going to be. And that's very, very important. But the vocals are great. So I'm really happy about those. And I played them for some people when I was out in LA and they were like, oh my God, they think it's really great, new Biscuits. But they're really hard to sing. So I have to practice. I have to do my practice.
The vocals on those demos are really good, but I can imagine it would be very difficult to reproduce on stage.
Yeah. And what do we do? What do the drums do? There's no drums on any of those demos. There's a lot to do there. But there's a bunch of new stuff and Joey and I have to, be together for the next 2 weeks and stuff. We'll probably go through and see where we're at as far as where we left off and some stuff. We are going into the studio next week to make what I think should just be 2 songs because I believe in the Rolling Stones method. But it is hard for us to get into the studio and we'll be on tour and, it's when the Stones go into the studio, they play. Did we talk about Rolling Stones method at all?
No, I have no idea what you're talking about.
Okay. So let me, just for everybody listening, so you can hear the whole story. The Rolling Stones method is the Stones used to go into the studio with the band and a bunch of writers and a bunch of sidemen. So a guy on playing organ all night, right? And that's why the Stones always have a list of sidemen musicians on every album.
Yeah.
So they go in with a couple of chicks singing vocals and a couple sidemen and then the band. And they put them in this huge space and they play the same song over and over and over and over and over and over, never stop all night. When they're done playing that song, the session is over and they leave. They don't go to another song like you would expect. Like a band goes in the studio and they're like, we're cutting song A from 12 to 3. We're cutting song B from 3 to 7. We're cutting song C from after dinner from 8:30 to 12, right? That's how Zeppelin did, Zeppelin 2. They did it on the road. They did a couple hours on each song and they banged it out in a week. And that's Led Zeppelin 2, arguably the greatest album ever made. Now, then you have the Stones, who have made arguably some of the greatest songs ever. Wild Horses was done this way. Angie, like a lot of those like later Stones albums with those, like what part is this type of song that they have where they're beyond the parts and they're beyond the sections and they literally just do the song over and over and over again till it's done. And then that's the version they release. They maybe go in and Mick maybe re-sings the lead, but that's it. And that is how the Stones, how it was explained to me. I'm not a historian, could be wrong about this. That's how it was explained to me. And it wasn't, that's just what I was told. So I was like, okay, well, the Biscuits, we have a lot of songs. Let's do Rolling Stones method. Because these songs are made, on a computer out of a jam with everybody's part. So we haven't gotten really too much chance to play them over and over. We never really. So we tested it at Elements Festival, which I don't know if Elements is considered one of the better shows of the year. I'm not sure. But that doorbell is fire. And we played that doorbell over and over and over again for an hour before we walked out there on the stage. Okay. And I noticed what I think would happened, which is the band starts to play the song at a level that is, just really, really fun to listen to because it's so nuanced and on the money because we've been playing it for for an hour and a half. So we're going to try and do that on this tour. We have 2 days. We're going to get in the studio. If we did 2 songs, let's say we did 4 songs, because, the guys want to do like 2 others for like an hour just for warm-ups or whatever. What would be your choices, Max?
Oh, God. Fire Will Exchange and Ring the Doorbell Twice.
Okay, those are 2. And then we're thinking about doing 2 others with that. So, yeah, we might do 4. And those 2, I think, are going to be on there.
But it's so hard, Fire Will Exchange. It has to be. If any song in the catalog deserves that Rolling Stone treatment, it's going to be that one. But you can make a case that Country Royale would benefit from that as well. Right?
Yeah, that case has been made. Yeah,
you talk about bringing in these sidemen. Bringing in. Magner already can handle doing the Chuck Leavell. He can do the Nicky Hopkins, but. Maybe you want to bring in someone to play a mandolin or you want to bring in some other kind of traditional country instrumentation. I don't know. It's really hard. It's a good position to be in, but I do love the prospect of you guys, the 4 of you in the studio, transforming some of these computer jam demos into the definitive version. Yeah.
That's basically what we're going to be doing. And we have so many songs that, we can do. I mean, look, if this works, if we get out of the studio with a Monday and Tuesday in the studio, and then we're right back and we're still on tour, right? We take 2 days off instead of sitting in a hotel and, instead of being on X talking about college football, I'll be in a studio,
baby horses.
I mean, you get bored. On the road. You do. Thank God it's college football season because I'd be so bored. And then, and if we can get 2 songs out of this weekend, if we can get 4 songs, that's crazy. And that would be, I think we're 12 deep. Like By the Time hasn't been put out yet. Photograph hasn't been put out yet. Yeah. No Recollection doesn't have any album or thing going on yet.
Yeah.
So it just seems like, and then there's all the new songs. There's Risky Business. There's Another Spin. There's Trapdoor. So it's hard. It's hard to get. This is a new strategy that we have to try and get our music completed in a studio sense.
So when is this taking place? This is soon.
Yeah, it's next Monday. Yeah.
Oh my God. Well, that's exciting.
Yeah, I got to get all the vocals done so that when we go in there, I can play guitar and not sing. And then I'll redo the vocals again afterwards. But I want us to be playing over like a good demo version of all the vocals.
Yeah.
And so that's my job for the next 2 days, is just to get those vocals worked out at tempo that they can play the vocal like a sample, and then we play along with it. And then, because I don't think we're going to have the luxury that the Rolling Stones had of having like 15 side people available, Yeah,
and a French chateau that you guys have rented out for 6 months and stocked wine cellar. So this is the why you've been practicing your baby-os. You got to have those baby-os on point.
Well, yeah. I mean, look, I listened to some Doorbell and I didn't like the baby. That's the one part that I think I would just nail, and I'm not thinking about it because I'm trying to get all the other parts right. And then I listen back, I get all the other parts right. But then the baby-o is not quite there. But I feel like the baby-os are better now. I feel like the vocals have gone up a level on this band again. And so like we just keep getting better in that category.
Well, very exciting times. John, I'm not going to keep you a minute longer. Go rest, sleep, chase River around, and work on those baby-os. You'll be back on the road in a few days at Woodstock, the Bearsville Theater, and then all across the Northeast. Thank you so much for taking some time out of your busy schedule to hang out on Touchdowns All Day.
Oh, yeah. Also, me and Magner have an acoustic show.
Oh, my God.
And the tickets are going fast. So if people want to get those tickets, they should jump out and grab them.
So much going on. And then, of course, New Year's, we've got the West Coast, Seabisco dates, and all the information is now available. Make sure you reserve your cabin. You do not want to miss being on the cruise.
How about that? That boat looks
so
fire,
much.
Doesn't it?
It's going to be so great. 2025 is going to be a good year. 2024 isn't a good year already. I can't even imagine what we have in store for next year. So on behalf of John Barber and Alex Mazer and the entire Touchdowns All Day family, this is Max Dawson saying, see you next time, guys.
See you, everybody.
Wear masks, communicate. Wear masks, communicate. Wear masks, communicate.
Touchdowns All Day is an Osiris Media production. This episode was written, produced, and edited by me, Max Dawson, and was mixed and mastered by Matt Dwyer. Check us out at www.touchdownsallday.com and use the hashtag TouchdownsAllDay on all social platforms. Barber and I would love to hear from you. You could reach us on the Touchdowns All Day hotline, 424-666-SIYD. John's at Barber Shreds, and I'm at FY Maxwell on Instagram and X. And you can reach the show at TDADBaby on X and at Touchdowns All Day on Instagram. This and every episode of Touchdowns All Day would not be possible without the contributions of many women and men, including the Disco Biscuits road crew. That's Ben, Pat, Nick, Brian, Rich, Dane, Amin, Herm, and Tara Gracer, who provides us with all of our photographs. The band itself, Mark, John, Aaron, and Alan, who you might know from the Alan Chant. Ben Baruch and Andrew Kaplan at 1111 Management. The Touchdowns All Day Advisory Committee, Andy Bazzani, Mike Walsh, Russ Tabes, Dave Cook, Scott McClintock, Rich Steele, and Ian Armstrong. The coaches, Joey Friedman and Steve Martocci. An extra special thanks to Lisa Gutwillig, Deb Brownstein, Angelica Magner, Sandra O'Quinn, Andrea Rivers, and Avery McMahon.
Osiris.